Welcome, Macro Sociology, to our last unit. This unit deals with government, economics, and work, and they're all actually tied into one another. So we're going to start with part one, and we're just going to define some things for us today and move on through the next couple weeks to finish the unit, all right? So government and economics. And as we said, government and economics go hand in hand, certainly one influencing the other, which we'll certainly talk about more. All right, so let's talk about economic institution. Some of you have taken economics, right? Economics means it refers to the way a society or the society has certain institutions that look how the goods are provided to the public. How are those services rendered? How are they distributed and consumed? So it refers to the social institutions through which all of this happens, through which our goods and services are produced and distributed and certainly consumed, right? Taken in. So that's what we're referring to when we talk about the economic situation. And that certainly is a result of the governing body, right? So let's go back first, a historical perspective. Back in the day, a while back before the Industrial Revolution, people stayed at home. They had their farmlands, right? From the 1760s into the 1830s in the Industrial Revolution, it brought about extreme changes in our social organization, certainly within the organization of the workplace, because now you left your home to go to work. So people left their homesteads and began actually working in the factories in central locations. So they came, left, and worked together. And certainly by leaving the home and working in these factories, that led itself up to some discussion about what was happening with our society and social interaction. So as we became a much more industrial society, we depended on mechanization. We wanted to produce goods and services, and we need mechanics to do that. And there's two basically economic institutions or economic systems that distinguish contemporary industrial society, right? How is everything distributed, produced, and consumed? And certainly many of you are familiar with capitalism. So industry came and capitalism was brought about an economic situation, an economic system in which the means of production is largely in the private hands, not the government hands. And the main incentive is profit. So everybody has an equal share to get ahead. It's private and it's really survival of the fittest and profit at all costs, right? Now, way back, we had what was called laissez-faire capitalism, which is different than today. So before capitalism, there were no rules and regulations. When capitalism came out, there was nothing to regulate it. So if someone wanted you to work, 12 hours without a break, you had to. So laissez-faire was the form of government that came in. It's a form of capitalism, actually, that came in immediately following the economic industrial revolution. People would compete freely, right? And you can compete freely with minimal government intervention. So we have laissez-faire initiating that original capitalism. Now, pioneers of sociological thought came into this, and they were concerned. They're concerned about the negative impact that this brought about. With people leaving their homesteads and going to the factory, they were worried about what this would do to people. I mean, think about it. You go to a factory and you do the same thing day after day. Workers, they thought about what would happen to the workers as a result of the Industrial Revolution. What kind of negative impact would it have on the psyche and the social ability of these individuals who had left their homesteads? So we can certainly see there was concern over what would happen to our society, and a look at what happened when we introduced this. So Durkheim, remember him from Sociology 1? Durkheim came in and he explored, as a theorist, he said, he was really concerned because he thought that the workers might experience a term called anomie, A-N-O-M-I-E, and it means loss of direction, anomie. It's as a result of feeling fulfilled. So if you go to work, I feel fulfilled. I feel fulfilled doing this right now. But if I had to go to do the same thing in a system like a factory, right? Well, what would happen to me? Some people just like doing the same thing over and over, and some people think it's disgusting, and they would go bored, right? With tedious. Some people don't want to think. I want to think when I'm at work, right? I want to certainly get involved, and I don't want it to be routine, and I don't want it to be something that I just do unconsciously, like drive to work, right? So you could see that by working in a factory, you would just day after day do the same thing over and over. So they were really concerned with this sense, as I mentioned, of anomie and what they could do about it. So we had some theorists coming along and I can get this, and suggesting different things. So after Durkheim, another person who had something to say, right, was Marx. And Marx thought, like Durkheim, he was concerned that these workers were robbed something, a relationship with their work. So because it was, just doing the same thing, even though it was capitalism, the specialization of task and everybody just doing this special thing, you have this growing sense of alienation. So two terms come up, anomie and alienation. And these are a result of, after the Industrial Revolution, people leaving their homesteads, going to believe that they could get a profit working in a factory with less government control. We're going to see that Marx had a solution to this next week, which was going to open the topic for different kinds of government and economics. Something you might have heard of lately, socialism. We'll introduce socialism and communism. Capitalism, socialism, communism, right? So we see the capitalism where it's in the people's hands, profit at all costs, right? We're going to see the opposite, or some different suggestions on how to regulate the production and consumption of goods. See you next week.